Maverick fans are crying, Lakers fans are celebrating, and fantasy basketball managers are confused. In this episode, we're going to destroy the confusion and let you know what you need to pay attention to after the Anthony Davis and Luka Doncic blockbuster trade. We believe every NBA fan that plays fantasy football should also play fantasy basketball. If it's your first time here, I'm Robin Marks, your personal fantasy basketball analyst. I've made stops in my career at NBC Sports Roto World and Hashtag Basketball, and now I work for you. Before we start the episode, I want to let you know that you are eligible to win this free PSA 9 Darius Garland rookie card. All you have to do is leave a comment on the YouTube version of this episode to enter. We'll be naming a winner at the end of the month. Again, PSA 9 Darius Garland rookie card. I want to give you a quick rundown of this episode. So we're going to talk about the general NBA takeaways. As a fan, as someone who just loves the game, we'll talk about some of those basic takeaways. But I know you're here to know how this impacts your fantasy basketball team. So we're going to make sure that we dig into the fantasy fallout, the implications of this Luka AD trade. And then the last thing we're going to do, we're just going to have some fun and go through some of the tweets that came out in the wee hours of the night when the news broke. So let's just jump right in. In terms of general NBA takeaways, the biggest thing was no one saw this coming. Apparently, the Cavs and the Lakers were behind the scenes for the last few days trying to work out the details of this deal, but they kept it close to the chest. Nobody knew. From what they're reporting, LeBron didn't know, Jason Kidd didn't know, no one in the organization knew except for the major players. So this is huge. And honestly, I don't remember ever seeing a trade like this. We've talked about it when we had the James Harden, when he first moved from Houston over to the Nets. That was a big deal, but it didn't feel like this. And the fact that it wasn't a discussion, it just bombed us out of the blue, was wild. The next big takeaway is the fact that the Lakers have committed to their future by bringing Luka Doncic on. They essentially have locked in a superstar for the next 10 to 12 years if they could secure him for a long-term deal. And now they have a box office attraction in one of the largest markets in the world. Speaking of box office attractions, I want to talk to you about BetOnline. BetOnline is the biggest online betting platform, and people absolutely love it. Now check it out. This weekend is the biggest betting weekend of the year. It's finally here, which means updated odds and props for Super Sunday. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. We have hundreds of prop bets, MVP odds, and exclusive in-game live betting. BetOnline is your ultimate game day companion. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, BetOnline offers you everything and more to enhance your game day experience. Visit the website today and make game day action count a little bit more. BetOnline, the game starts here. A couple more NBA takeaways that hit me. First, Dallas wins this trade, I think, in the short term, right? So they win short term because they're going to make a push for an NBA title. They got a little bit better bringing AD on. So I think that was a big takeaway for me. Another thing is that AD is injury prone. Yes, he's been healthy the last couple of seasons, but he's been known to be habitually injured, chronically injured. They used to call him Mr. Glass, for crying out loud. So for me, that's a concern. And I think he'll be a better fit for Kyrie, but it's a concern that he had some injury issues in the past. Another thing that's coming up is that Dallas's main concern was Luka's conditioning. I know you guys probably remember when they won the Western Conference Finals last year, there was a iconic scene where he had a beer and Michael Finley had to come and take the beer away from him. So they say Luka shows up to training camp any old way and works himself into shape. It kind of reminds me of Shaquille O'Neal when Shaq played. He kind of just came in the way he looked and weighed and got himself into game shape. And also they said defense was an issue with Luka. Another thing is the Supermax that he would be eligible for pretty soon. I think that Dallas didn't want to pay that. And the last thing is, I don't think the Lakers are done. They obviously need some front court help, so they'll be looking for some players before this trade deadline is finished. So I know what you're here for. You're here for the fantasy implications. If you are tuning in live, make sure you drop questions in the chat. And if you guys want to see this recording every week live, we film every Sunday night at about 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'd love to see you there. So the first big takeaway for fantasy is that some folks were concerned about drafting Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic because they both have a 2-game week in most people's fantasy basketball playoffs. But one thing I always tell you, I don't give a shit su puppy. Don't make draft decisions based on people's playoff schedules. It'll come to bite you in the butt later as you're getting closer to the fantasy basketball playoffs. Right, we're getting there now. Right, we're almost in March. It's February right now, so we'll be playing some fantasy basketball playoff games soon. This is where you can start making some trades to kind of get ready for the fantasy playoffs. But I wouldn't draft my team based on someone having an amazing, fantasy playoff schedule. So that's the first thing, that this 2-game playoff that some people dodged Luka Doncic or even, diminished his value during draft season is coming back to bite you in the butt if you made that decision. On the week of March 17th and through the 23rd, Dallas has 2 fantasy basketball games. The Lakers have 4. Let that sink in. Let that sink in. The next big takeaway for fantasy for the Luka and AD trade is Luka and LeBron. So they're very similar players, but I think Luka and LeBron both have an opportunity to continue to perform at a high level. However, they may see a decrease in their assist numbers. And those are huge, especially in a points league. You know that assists are heavily weighted. Regardless of where you play, it's going to be a little more than a point. So make sure that you're just paying attention to that and monitoring that. The next thing I want to talk about is AD. I think AD is going to maintain his value. We might even see an increase where Luka and LeBron in LA are going to probably hurt each other with assists because of the departure of Luka Doncic in Dallas. I think they're going to need people to distribute the ball. And I think AD might see a slight uptick in his assist numbers. And it'll probably create a marginal increase in his value. Now let's talk Kyrie Irving. For Kyrie, I think his assists go up. This is a man that throughout his season has averaged 7, 8 assists a game. He's taken a hit in the assist category since joining the Dallas Mavericks because he's playing alongside another ball-dominant distributor in Luka Doncic. That is no longer the case. Now, Kyrie has an opportunity to increase his assists, so keep an eye out for that. And also, I think being the primary ball handler will also give him an opportunity to have first dibs at what shots he takes. So I think Kyrie is going to win with Luka departing. Another thing that's worth noting for the entire staff of guards in Dallas, your Spencer Dinwiddie's, Klay Thompson, Hardy, Grimes, even Max Christie, who just came over from LA. I think it's worth monitoring all of them, right? We want to really pay attention to what's going to happen because somebody needs to step up. Luka is going to leave a gaping hole of usage. Yes, Anthony Davis will come in and fill some of that, but he ain't Luka, huh? He's not holding the ball like Luka with the dribble between. He's like James Harden back in the day, the way Luka played when he was in Dallas. So for me, I want to pay attention to see if any of these guards steps up to take a leap in the second half of the season. Now, this is sad news for Austin Reeves. Austin Reeves is going to take a big hit here. He's going to take a big hit. When D'Lo left and he moved into the point guard position, he started to thrive with assists, right? But with Luka being here, he's going to come back to earth fast. And I'm not going to say he's going to totally stink up the joint, but there's going to be a little bit of hot dog water with the bratwurst residue. Yeah, I think your man Austin Reeves is going to come down just like a small puddle of hot dog water for your mans in them. Before we talk about the other players here, I want to talk to you about our paid subscriber community. If you love this community and you want to invest in what we are building, please consider becoming a paid subscriber. Think of it like treating me to a coffee and a bagel once a month. Becoming a paid subscriber will grant you access to our MVP Discord channel, priority DM and email replies, and priority Rate My Team videos. And most importantly, your support will help us to keep creating content. You're not obligated or expected to pay anything to be a part of this community, but there are expenses associated with running this operation, and your support will help us to keep this thing going for years to come. To get started, visit BelieveInFantasy.com, enter your email, and select the level of support that works best for you. Now, back to the Luka Doncic and Anthony Davis trade. The Lakers have a massive, massive hole in their front court. So with Anthony Davis gone, like they don't really have a big man, a decent big man, that is. And it's funny because AD was on a record a couple of weeks ago saying, yo, we need a center. We need to get a center because I'm a power forward and I want to play center. I'm paraphrasing, of course, but he definitely was in an interview saying that. And I think Rob Pelinka and them boys was like, oh, you want a center? Here, go to Dallas. Now you got two. One might be banged up, but you got Gafford, and then you'll have Lively. Go get as many centers as you want. Bye-bye. So I think that's kind of, he kind of foreshadowed his future. So, yeah, I think that the Lakers are going to make another move. They have to, because at this point, they really don't have any bigs that can hold them down. So they got to make a move and make it quick. Speaking of bigs, from the Dallas Mavericks, Daniel Gafford is going to take a major hit. I think this won't happen overnight, but I think they'll likely start AD at power forward, and then I think they're going to have some opportunity to test out some other pieces for the starting lineup. But I think for Dan Gafford, having a defensive-minded big who can also score like Anthony Davis on the court with him is going to impact his value. So I do think that Dan Gafford is a player that will slowly decline with Anthony Davis on the squad. Now, someone who's going to benefit from all of this, from the Los Angeles Lakers, there is that gaping hole I talked about, right? But there is one man standing, and that's Jackson Hayes. Now, Jackson Hayes is going to have some value while the Lakers figure out what they're going to do long-term for the rest of the season in terms of their front court play. They also have Christian Wood, who's been banged up all season and might come back soon. But Jackson Hayes, if he's available on your waiver wire, is somebody that I would consider grabbing right now. Speaking of Christian Wood, if you didn't know, Christian Wood used to play with Luka Doncic. And I think that's honestly a great look for the Lakers because they have some existing chemistry that they can kind of dust off and bring to life immediately. If Christian Wood gets healthy, this is a guy that can put up double-doubles like it's nobody's business. If he gets healthy and he plays alongside Luka, you know what we say. Top is off, boobies is out, hair blowing in the freaking wind. I think Christian Wood can be a huge sleeper play if you have the patience and if you're in a winning position right now. If you're like struggling to make it into the playoffs, I wouldn't recommend messing with Christian Wood unless you had a bunch of IR spots available. But because of his history with Luka Doncic, I think he'll be able to produce if he gets some minutes once he's healthy. Speaking of players that used to play with Luka, there's another guy on the Lakers who also has a rich history with Luka Doncic. Dorian Finney-Smith, who recently just arrived in Los Angeles after the D'Angelo Russell trade. And Dorian Finney-Smith is a pretty good, like, late round kind of pick, somebody that his floor is good enough for a points league where he might be worth holding on to. However, with a Luka Doncic, your mans could be cooking with hot bacon grease. I'm just saying. He had one of his best statistical seasons of his career while playing alongside Luka Doncic. So you want to pay attention to that because I don't think that's something your league mates are thinking about right now. So if there was an ad from this, I would be looking at potentially adding Jackson Hayes, potentially adding Dorian Finney-Smith. We do have a couple of losers from this, and more losers, I should say. I said Austin Reeves was one, but I also think Rui Hachimura is going to take a hit and will be a loss. And I think P.J. Washington also will take a hit. So I promise you guys some fun tweets to go through about this trade. So I want to make sure I keep my word there, and let's dig right in. So if you're like me, you were up late last night as this news broke. It caught everyone off guard, and Twitter, aka X, was going crazy. So this is a tweet that came in from Dave McMenamin. He says, LeBron James learned of the Davis-Doncic trade after the Knicks game when it broke while he was out to dinner with his family. What? Where they do that at? Sources close to James told ESPN. James was surprised by the news, is processing it, and had no idea it was in the works. That's crazy. There's more. This one is from Paul Pierce. He says, trade Bron and Bronny back to Cleveland. Build around Luka is the only way to save the Lakers. Dang. Well, in order to trade LeBron, you would need him to sign off on his no trade clause. So you can't trade LeBron James. Like, legally, you can't trade LeBron James. Paul Pierce wasn't done. He says, he not the superstar LA needs, doesn't fit the mold, Magic, Kobe, Shaq, LeBron. Just saying, though, bad move. So it looks like Paul Pierce, who's from LA, is not happy about this trade. Jalen Brunson says, holy shish kebabs. He didn't say shish kebabs. He said the other word, but yeah, shocking. Jalen Brunson also writes, April Fools, right? Not quite as February, my guy. Dirk Nowitzki has, I think that's kind of like a bashful face, just an emoji. 204,000 likes on that one. Patrick Mahomes says, I'm sick right now. Wait, what? That's good. Micah Parsons, defensive player from the Dallas Cowboys, says, yo, WTF going on in Dallas? Yo, what the is going on in Dallas? Yeah, well, you was busy doing your podcast, Micah. Your men's got moved out of town. This one is good. From the LA Rams, that Puka Doncic nickname hitting different now. Yo! So if you guys don't know, if my fantasy football people, some people in the NFL world call Puka Doncic. He plays for the LA Rams. So now Luka Doncic will be in LA with his brother Puka and Luka. I like that one. De'Aaron Fox with the mind blown emoji. He probably now, because he was just moved to San Antonio, his mind is blown for different reasons. Lethal Shooter says, the first ever that I don't understand it. This insane. Trae Young has a keyhole and exclamation marks. Very cryptic, Trae. Very cryptic. Tyler Hero says, WTF. Josh Hart says, huh? Question mark. Alice Caruso. Nah, Shams got to be hacked. I didn't believe it either. I think it was, I don't know who I saw. I saw it on YouTube first, and I saw the thumbnail, and I was like, that's fake. Let me go check Shams. And Shams had it up there. Tyrese Maxey says, huh? Joel Embiid is like, wow, no F way. Yeah. Giannis has an ice cold smile in the world, cold world. You got to come on, guys. Keep up. Try to keep up. Tristan Thompson of Kardashian fame and Cleveland Cavaliers fame. Luka getting traded from Dallas has to have a deeper story behind it. This just doesn't happen on a random Saturday night. Oh, it did, and it does. This one from CJ McCollum. Gotta pack them bags just in case nowadays. If the Don got traded, only Lord knows. Only Lord knows. Man, that's good. That's good. That's good. That's good. That's good. Listen. Now that you know what to do because of the Luka Doncic and Anthony Davis trade, check out this episode about the De'Aaron Fox to San Antonio trade. This episode was presented to you by BetOnline.